Greetings, family. Welcome to another episode of Clear Thinking with Brother Dulani. In this episode, we're discussing the recent so-called summit of African leaders and Donald Trump at the White House. Now, my people, to me, it was a disappointment. This is not what I envision when I think about African leadership. I don't expect African leadership to be paraded on the international stage in this sycophantic behavior, this begging, this praising, this lauding. It reminds me of some type of Game of Thrones, this medieval arrangement where you got African leaders bowing down to this great imperial power, you know, as if there's some kind of subordinate states, and they come to praise this great leader for his mercy and for his generosity and for how wonderful and perfected he is. And, that's not leadership. That is not my idea of leadership. We need bold, courageous, brave leadership that can articulate a clear vision of what we need as a people and what we're demanding as a people. That was a charade. That was an insult to our legacy, insult to our ancestors, insult to our history. We should not be in a position where we're genuflexing and bowing down and begging for support and aid from any country, especially America, who have participated in the crippling of African people, the continent as a whole, and African people in particular have been the victim of over 500 years of genocide against our people. And we're going to sit there and play these charade and masquerading in front of this man as if he's some kind of feudal lord. It is an insult. It is a disgrace to the dignity of our people. We should be articulating from a position of strength. We should be showing the world that African people are a resilient people, despite all the difficulties, despite the enslavement, the colonization, the genocide, despite all of the machination of imperialism and neocolonialism, despite all the crippling debt and the crippling and insulting economic arrangement that we have had with these former colonial powers that is still crippling us today and exploiting and extracting resources from our land. And we want that to change. We should be articulating a vision that Africa will be the master of African destiny and our resources will be used for the development of African people. That was not articulated as an imperative. It was mentioned in passing by maybe one or two of those so-called selected leaders of Africa. Because that leadership, I was not expecting that. Especially the one that really surprised me was from Senegal, that young brother. I don't know why they chose him, considering, some of his anti-colonial rhetoric. But it seems as if they know something that we don't know. And this reveals something about that young man that now we have to be very careful. Because when you go in front of the world and you are parading yourself like this and lauding up this man as if he's some kind of savior, that he's going to somehow come and rescue African people, we know that that unprincipled leadership in Washington will not be coming to save us. Only thing they will be doing is coming to exploit us. They be coming to seek resources from us at the very cheapest possible costs. That is how they're coming. And in many cases, if you look at the neo-colonial leadership playbook, it has been to offer them unfettered access to our resources with very little oversight, very little taxation, the opportunity to expropriate their profit. And in many cases, they don't even store their income or save their income in the African country. They would bank it outside of Africa. And we have to rely on them to tell us how much they make and how much we should get. That kind of arrangement needs to stop. We need to end that kind of arrangement. We need transparency in how we deal with anybody. As a matter of fact, I'm advocating that we put it all on the blockchain. All our transaction, all our contracts with them, put it on blockchain so we can see exactly what they're getting and exactly how they're distributing and exactly how much profit they're extracting. So we can demand our fair share if you're going to do any business with them, if you're going to do any kind of arrangement with them. And that is something that we have to always keep our option open to deal with anyone that give us the best deal for what we have to offer. A principal African leadership will be defending the rights and the resources of African people. We need to end this neo-colonial arrangement where they come in and they want to just extract our resources, exploit our people, and then we are still left in poverty for decades after decades after decades. That arrangement needs to stop, and we need a leadership in Africa that can articulate it. And that's why I admire the new leadership that is emerging within the Sahel state of West Africa, particularly with Burkina Faso, with Mali and Niger. The people's revolutionary process that is taking place there is giving us a template for this modern era. You got to be about Kuji Chakalia, which is self-determination. You got to be about defending the resources of your country to say we are going to process our own gold, our own oil, our own minerals, and we are going to create value, and we're going to sell on the international market and trade amongst ourselves at fair value. We need to end the relationship. And if you listen carefully to some of the things that was said, and I think it was only one of those leaders, I think it was a general, he said, that we say he was practical and the kind of partnership he wanted. And, some of America offer weaponry and all these, the latest weaponry and all. And he said, yeah, that's what we need. And then he said, we also need to process our own resources, and add value and so forth like that. And I thought that was probably the most sensible thing I heard said at the summit. If you can read through all that genuflexing and that sycophantic behavior, and to get to some substance. And the president of America, he had weapons to offer. If you listen to him, the U.S. got the best weapons, and you see what we did in Iran. Those was his words. Not, yes, we want to partner with Africa. We want to see Africa develop, and we want to, participate in the development of Africa and its people. That's not the tone that they're coming with. And quite frankly, I am disappointed that any African leaders would go there sounding so weak and so beggy. We got to be better than that. We need principled leadership that can defend and articulate our vision. And we don't need we need to get the equipment where we could explore our own resources. We don't need no one to come tell us what we have under our soil. We have to determine that for ourselves. People can tell us anything. And when we're exploring, we need to have our own people to be there to regulate any exploration taking place and make sure we get the best deal possible for our products and service. Now, I would say this, from watching this summit, I am saying that we need to have leadership academies across Africa. We need to have leadership institution that's devoted to teaching our people how to be dignified, principled, firm, brave, wise leaders, to be able to come on the world stage and perform with dignity and with power and with purpose. Because what I saw there was weakness. I didn't see strength. We need to inspire our generations to come, that we have strong and visionary African leaders who can articulate clearly what we want and what the kind of arrangement we are seeking to have. And in the big scheme of things, trying to deal with imperialism is never going to be easy, because they have the advantage. They control the financial institutions. Well, things are changing now. The dynamics of power is changing. They had almost exclusive control over the destiny of many of the countries in the global south and the former colonies of Europe. You know, a lot of those dynamics are changing now. We now have China and Russia, India, South Africa. You know, the alignment is changing. India. And we see that the alignment of power change. We have options now. And we also have to keep the long-term goal of our own self-determination, our own self-sufficiency, our own technological infrastructure, our own factories, our own manufacturing base, to produce our own tools, our own weaponry, our own spare parts. We have to convert our own resources, convert our own mineral into usable products. That is our responsibility. No one is, we shouldn't expect no one else to come and do it for us. And any relationship where we get into is short term. It's always a means to an end. Because we want to learn the scientific process to do it ourselves, develop the techniques to do it ourselves. We should never be totally dependent on any entity, any outside force. We can intelligently work and enjoy partnership and temporary arrangements, but the long-term goal must always be self-sufficiency. So this summit, there's not much to report, my people. There's not much to really say, because not much happened there. I didn't get anything of great substance from that. I am more disappointed than anything else, because I saw weakness on display. I didn't see strength. So now we need to cultivate good leadership, quality leadership. I really see that that's lacking. Now, you know, I thought they would have really, if they're going to have a so-called, and they, you know, notice how they frame it, a representing the continent. You pick 5 weak sounding leaders to come and represent the continent. At the very least, I thought they would have brought Nigeria to the table. I mean, they love Kagame from Rwanda. They love him. He's the darling of the West. I'm surprised that they didn't bring him there to come and articulate a vision. I mean, he talk a good game, and I'm sure there are others. You know, Ramaphosa, he talk a good game. You know, they could have picked some leaders that can swing and articulate some strength, but they didn't, because they always want to portray African people as weak and beggars. That's how the far right in America view African people. They have no respect for African people. And I mean, there's no secret about that. That whole meeting was a charade. It's theatrics to stroke the ego of this leader, in this unprincipled leadership in America. They have no intention to develop Africa or see Africa develop. They want to prevent Africa from moving into the hands of the Chinese, to keep them away from the Chinese bloc and the Russian bloc. That's what that meeting was about. And to try to secure, and I even heard pass a little whispering here and there about third countries for immigration purposes and all that. It sounds as if, they want to find country where they can just dump people, scrape up people off the streets of America and just dump them where they don't know where they're from. They can't even speak the language. So they just say, okay, you got to go. And just find somewhere and drop you. And they're trying to find some willing countries who are willing to accept immigrants from anywhere. Drop them there, we take care of them. And I think I hear something in the news where Nigeria says, I can't do nothing for you, man. From Favor Flav. You know what I mean? Public Enemy. You know what I'm saying? They got their own problem. I can't do nothing for you, man. So, it's just, it's sad that this is what we have descended to. And these forces that's in power now, this version of imperialism, they don't care nothing about us. And that's the truth. We got to come to terms with it. They don't care about us. We got to care about our own self. And we got to put measures in place to protect our own self and our own people. So it's all about self-determination from here on out. We got to do what's best. We got to utilize the resources we have. We got to trade amongst ourselves. We got to cooperate amongst ourselves and seek the best partners for the job that we're going to get. Defend the best interests of your people. That's all we can do for now until we get stronger, until the next generation gets stronger, where we can dislodge neocolonialism and dislodge imperialism from our lands and have a world that is repaired, that is fair, that and balanced, where everybody can be respected. Because reparations for African people is a historical work. Internal repairing and the repair from the damage that was done externally to us, both of them have to go hand in hand. And then hopefully that will lead to a planet that is repaired, to planet repair. Because ultimately, reparation is for the whole globe that's been damaged by imperialism. But we as African people, we have to focus primarily on our own Pan-African reparation, liberation struggle to bring about the kind of changes that we need amongst ourselves, in our school system, in our communities. It is our duty, it's our mandate to bring these things about. Imperialist forces will not come and save us. We have to be clear about those things. Don't expect them to save us. We have to save ourselves. And nothing, no force coming to save us. Only we can save ourselves. And let that be clear. Our leaders need to articulate a vision that put our people first and the control of our resources at the center of our dealing with anybody around the world. So I want to thank you, my people, for listening to another episode of Clear Thinking with Brother Dulani. Walk good, my people. Hotep. Ashe.